Hey, thanks for joining me again. I'm Jeff Opdyke with the Savvy Retiree, back with another video. And today I am talking to Kay Neseem, who is the founder and president of K which designs I'm going to let her explain it because I'm going to explain it horribly, but I know it's an arm sling, it's an arm brace for shoulder injury patients and ALS patients. That she designed herself, came up with based on her background, and I'm going to let her explain all that for a second. But I just want to introduce you to her. It's tied to this concept of retirees, not retirees, I'm sorry, older Americans, 50 and over, who are moving into the workforce these days as entrepreneurs because of various things that are going on in sort of our post-COVID world with older Americans finding it 2 times as difficult to find a job as younger workers, according to research. And they're the ones who tend to have lost more jobs than younger workers in the COVID crisis. And so a lot of them are turning to entrepreneurial talents, entrepreneurial skills. And Kay is a fabulous example of that. So before we even get into your background, I just want you to describe what your product is. And the reason I want to is because I know what it is. I've seen it online. And I think, and knowing your story, I think it really speaks to the approachability of being an entrepreneur. I mean, some people think about being an entrepreneur and you've got all this tech imagery in their mind, and they've got millions of dollars they've got to spend on warehouses and production and all that kind of fun stuff. But I know from seeing your product, it's a very simple, elegant solution to a problem. And I know you sort of sketched this thing out basically on a piece of paper. So I really want you to explain what your product is before I get into your background.
Basically, I am an occupational therapist, and I worked with patients for over 18 years. And I was very involved with orthopedics and, primarily also shoulder patients. And I saw a need for a better device to immobilize an arm for a post-operative care or for a traumatic injury or just for pain relief. And I remember my first patient when I was assigned to a shoulder patient. It was a weekend, and I wasn't very comfortable doing a shoulder patient. And most therapists have to have extra skills and extra certifications to be really comfortable with shoulder patients. And the shoulder therapist that was on the floor called me and said, you're on call on the weekend and there's going to be a shoulder. I totally freaked out. I'm like, how am I going to do a shoulder? I'm not comfortable. And the first thing that came to my mind was, how will I put the sling and swat on? I don't understand it. It's very complicated. And let alone how will I instruct the patient on it to apply it when they go home. And as she said, just come over and I'll go over it with you. She did, and she was an expert in it, but I wasn't. And I came home and I did not sleep all night and went to work in the morning. And sure enough, that was my patient, my first shoulder patient. And I struggled with the brace, and I advise everybody never to tell the patient that they're your first patient. And so I had done that too. But after that, I thought I needed to understand it really well. I needed to master it so I can do shoulder patients. And that's what I did. And I became the shoulder therapist. And early on, I wondered, if it is so complicated and intimidating to me as a therapist, how do I expect my patients to follow up on its application when they go home? And, years and years of my work with the patients, the braces were either too flimsy, they did not support the arm, or they were so complicated and cumbersome that it was just a nightmare for patients to even apply them. And most every brace had a strap pulling on the neck. So if you have a patient, the arm is supposed to be in a brace. Now there's a strap pulling on their neck with the weight of the arm, causing discomfort to the neck, and sometimes even becoming problem that they sometimes would need physical therapy to now treat the neck after having that weight on it for so many weeks. So I used to keep on wondering, why cannot this be simple? Why does it have to be so complicated? And it wasn't until I started doing ALS clinic and I had a patient that come to me who had paralyzed both arms, and that's one of the conditions ALS population is faced with. And he had a sling on each arm. The sling was very flimsy. It did not support the arm, but the straps from each sling on each arm was pulling on his neck so poorly and badly with the weight of his two almost, dead arms, that he was pulled forward so much. I just looked at him and my spine just shivered, and I said, "Who gave you this?" There was no other alternative. And then I started searching, what can I give these patients? Of course, this is not the answer. It's actually hurting them. It's hurting their neck. And so there has to be a better way of doing this. When I started calling around and I started searching around, the reply was, "We don't have anything else. This is all we have." I was very vocal about it in the department as well, that we need a brace that can secure both arms in one device, that we can, that does not pull on the neck, and a caregiver can easily place an arm of their loved one into the brace, because now the patient does not have use of any of the arms. And I walked into a patient's room one time, and she'd heard me saying this. And she asked me, and she was in the same condition. She had ALS, she had both arms paralyzed. And she said to me, "Kay, I need your brace and I'm dying." And that was the moment I came home. I still remember her, and I still hear those words in my ears. And I thought to myself, I should do this. And if I can do this, it's going to help so many patients who are suffering. And if I don't do this, maybe at the age of 85, I might think I could have done something good for people, and I just got scared and I didn't. So both the options were very easy to decide what to do. And I called up an attorney and I said, "Can you file a patent for me for a double arm brace for ALS patients?" And he said, "Do you have a prototype?" And I said, "No, it's in my head." So that wasn't the answer he was looking for. He slammed the phone on me and he said, "Woman, do you even know what it takes to file a patent?" And I said, "No." So he hung up on me, and I called another attorney from the Yellow Pages randomly. And he is with me till today. He said, "What can you give me?" He saw the urgency, and I told him, these patients don't live for too long and there's nothing for them out there. And he said, "What can you give me?" And I said, "I can draw." So I drew a sketch of it on a piece of paper and I mailed it to him. And he called me and he said he's going to file a patent. So he filed a utility patent for ALS patients for a double arm brace that could secure both arms. And a few months later, he called me and he said, "You have a patent for ALS patients for a double arm brace." And it wasn't rejected because there was nothing else to compare with in the market.
And can you explain what this arm brace looks like?
So so what I did was, most of the slings or the braces, they have a pocket or a sleeve that you have to fit your arm into it. What I did was I opened it up into a flat flap where you can open it all the way, and you can actually place the arm and roll it over the arm and Velcro it and form a sleeve on the arm. Instead of for the arm to fit in the brace actually fits over the arm. And I had two of those flaps that could roll over, one on top of the other, and a caregiver could easily place one arm and roll the flap up and secure it with Velcro, and then do the other arm, and that could secure both arms. And then I had, instead of getting the straps over the neck, I had them around the waist and buckled them in the front. So it was more secure. And with the double arm brace, I also had shoulder straps that could buckle over each shoulder. But it gave them the support that the arm needed. At the same time, it was easy enough for a caregiver to open the flap and place the arm gently. And I used to wonder, these patients are overwhelmed with the disease process, and so are their caregivers. And if I can make one thing simple in their day, I I should do that. It's a lot. It's a lot of heavy duty work that the caregivers are dealing with ALS patients, and just to decompress. Every little thing matters, and sometimes when people are suffering with an illness, sometimes less is better. Like the more straps and buckles and complicated braces are a chore for the patient and a chore for the caregiver just to apply to the patient. So that was the passion I had come with. When this brace got issued, then I thought maybe I can cut it in half and make it applicable for one arm for orthopedics and for trauma, or for pain relief. And so we did file another patent. But then I also took it to the orthopedic surgeons at that time, and just to get their feedback. What do they think about it? And they really liked it, and they gave me some feedback. So I modified, adapted to what their feedback was, so that they're more comfortable with it as well. And so we then made one for a single arm brace, and then the orthopedic surgeons wanted a pillow, because a lot of braces, when a certain kind of surgeries are performed, they need the arm to be in an angle, and that requires for a pillow. So I then adapted it with a pillow as well. So those are the three products that we have in production. And I just kept on growing the patents and the designs as I was meeting with the clinicians and the patients or the organizations, and what they were asking me. And if I didn't have that, I would take their feedback and come and then follow up on it. One time I had gone to a trade show, and somebody asked me, can you make it disposable for emergency medicine, like on site of stabilizing the arm or the shoulder? So and I came home and I said, well, it's the same design. What I can do is look at the material and make it disposable. So then we had the disposable version of it. The difference of it is I've opened it up into a flap. So it's a lot easier to roll it on the part of the arm that requires to be immobilized and Velcro it. And then there is only one strap that goes around the waist for one arm brace. Based on the feedback from the surgeons, they wanted a shoulder strap and an elbow strap. Some of them did, so I keep it optional and I keep it in the package. If somebody wants to use it, they can. But we had a study done by Virginia Tech, and they evaluated and compared this brace with the braces in the market, which were requiring multiple straps and buckles. And they concluded that my technology and the one-arm brace they ranked it as best for ease of use and comfort, because it just had one strap. And based on the study they did on the activity of the muscle, they also concluded that it actually was stabilizing the shoulder with one strap just as well as the other braces were with multiple straps and buckles. So that was a good breakthrough for the validation of the technology and the value proposition as well.
Let me back up for a second and ask the bigger question is, how old were you when this happened? I mean, you were in your 50s, right?
Yes.
Okay. I take it that you didn't go into your 50s thinking, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Not at all. It took, that's, I think it was that patient who said to me, I'm dying and I need your brace. And
but to this day, from my original conversation with you, I know that this has been a bit of a passion for you. You have a passion yes. for basically taking care of people. That's I don't know if that's the right way to phrase that, but you have a passion that sort of drove you to this.
And you're absolutely right that early on, and it's I think I can relate with every clinician who is in my profession or in working with patients. That's their passion, and it was my passion too. How can I give my best to my patient? What can I do to make it better for them? And sometimes the status quo was just not good enough. So I was a little bit on the disruptive side as well. Like, okay, I am going to do my best, but if this is not the best, then I am going to do something to create that best. And that the passion that I think I had early on. And sometimes it can be a little disruptive too, because you just don't want to keep on doing what's been going on for many, many years. And you just take an action where, it's going to be faced with a lot of challenges, but your passion is the one that keeps you going, and you stay focused. You have to be madly in love with your passion. And I seriously believe that it's like blind love. You're madly in love for what you're doing and the cause for it, why you're doing this. And then just, take all the aches and pains that come with it with a stride and keep on moving forward. You don't give up.
And what year did you sell your first brace?
I'm sorry?
What year did you sell your first brace?
I think it took about till 2016. We were still working on the prototype and trying to develop the masterpiece at that time of the prototype. And I think after that, it was perhaps late 2017 that I made my first sale.
And today we're in late 2020, so 3 years later, and you just got picked up by Premier, the group purchasing organization for hospitals and pharmacies and things like that. So that potentially is like a next level move higher. I mean, that's not just selling to a couple of hospitals. That's a national thing now.
Absolutely. And that was, and I have to acknowledge there has been a lot of help by the U.S. Commercial Service, by the SBA, by SCORE. And in those little networking events or, seminars, I got introduced to Bosma Enterprises, which is an Ability One organization, and they hire blind people, and they're always looking for getting on products. They have a big presence in the VA healthcare system, and I was there, and I had talked about my product, and their CEO now, and their program development director. They came looking for me, and they said, we really like your product, and I think we would like to take it on our contract. And so they were extremely helpful. They were the ones who got my product on their VA contract, as well as got me introduced to Premier. And then Premier looked at the product and awarded my technology, a breakthrough technology in shoulder braces, and awarded me the contract for soft orthopedic goods. So those little things happen on the way.
And can I back for a second? You mentioned SCORE. Can you explain a little bit about what SCORE is? Because I write about those guys. I know they're a nonprofit, and they help a lot of entrepreneurs who aren't really sure of those first steps to take in this new business adventure. And so just explain a little bit what SCORE does.
Right. SCORE is a great organization. I feel like it's next to the Bible. SCORE is for small businesses, especially for me. I was very fortunate to get a very good mentor. They are affiliated with Small Business Administration, so they are affiliated with SBA, and they are, I think it stands for the Service Corps of Retired Executives. So that's what SCORE stands for, and it's an organization of mentoring small businesses, and these are, these volunteer people volunteering their services who've been CEOs or, or maybe have led organizations when they were working and now retired, and now they want to give back to the community. And it's a great program. And I value so much what SCORE has done for me. They will really hold your hand and for every question, because I was not a businesswoman. I was always a service-oriented professional. And when you're a service-oriented professional and you put a hat of an entrepreneur, you don't know everything. And it's okay not to know everything. So then organizations like SCORE are the ones that you can really rely on, for any questions. Okay, how do I write this business plan, or how do I write this proposal or this application, or where can I find a good accountant or an attorney? All these things, they have the resources, and a lot of times they among themselves have the expertise to help answer your questions. And so I, to this day, rely heavily on my mentor. Even after so many years, I work with them very closely.
And what was the big challenges you faced going from being a clinician in a hospital to being an entrepreneur? I mean, that's a big step, going from, you're basically serving a business to basically owning / running a business. That's different.
You're basically clueless sometimes. So that's a very honest answer, because your passion is to your passion is to work with patients, and it's what you do day in and day out. You look at the symptoms and you do your best to give them the best treatment plan. And now you have a concept in your mind, and you want to develop a tangible product out of that concept to solve problem that you faced with your patients. That in itself, it's intimidating. I have something, like I said, it's in my head. How do I make it into a tangible product? So that's one thing. And then to make sure that that product it has the validity of the proof of concept that you're trying to prove. And so those are all challenges. And sale is a challenge in itself. But first of all, the first challenge is taking the concept to a product. And again, I really took advantage, or relied heavily on the resources available to entrepreneurs such as mine who were trying to innovate or develop a product. And I went to U.S. Commercial Service that they connected me to a program that's called MEP, which is the Manufacturers Extension Partnership Program. And that's how I got connected to another organization, which was local with the state of Virginia, that was called Gen Edge. And they promote manufacturing into the state of Virginia. And using those resources, Gen Edge then really helped me scout the manufacturer and find the design experts to really develop the prototype and make sure that I am happy with the end product, so that now I can take it to the clinicians for the feedback. So all those things you don't know. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. But once you're on the path, those are the challenges that you understand, and you get to learn that what are the best way of moving forward, and with what I don't know, how can I learn, or how can I take guidance from people who can help me? So that was a challenge, yes.
And I don't want to get too deep into the money stuff, but I know that you use personal savings to sort of fund this, right?
Yes.
To what degree has that impacted your retirement planning, and how does the passion fit into that in terms of willing to trade what some people might consider retirement security for a long shot almost? How do you balance that?
For a year after you and I quit my job, I was doing part-time work. and trying to make, a little bit of money to pay my bills. But then you realize that when you have to do something wholeheartedly, then you just have to give in all your time to that purpose and to that passion. So um, I think around 2017, I was not doing anything but my company. It is I can so taking um, using all my retirement money, or my not my retirement money, but my savings accounts, or taking an equity loan against my house, or um, trying to do anything that I could to keep on moving forward. Luckily, I do have a partner also who believes in this product, and we both have taken equity loans or taken money out of our retirement. We also were very careful about how much we can expense and hire um, to to take us to another level. So we kept our business plan very lean. We were doing everything ourselves, basically, from invoicing, from marketing, from business planning, strategies, everything we were doing on our own. So we were trying to save as much money as possible. But and then we were using a lot of resources from SBA or SCORE or PTAC, which is another organization, giving a little bit fees to Gen Edge and helping us. So we really got a lot of help without spending like totally getting rid of all our wallets. So that way we kept our business plan. And to this day, we keep our business plan very, very lean. We only hire on contract basis what we need to hire, and the rest we do ourselves. As far as the savings, yes, I depleted my savings account totally. But it's what I see. It's what I see why it's worth it. It's the passion that is going to help so many patients. And sometimes it's the legacy. We all come to, we all live for a purpose in life. And what we leave behind is what we've done in this world. And so that's to me is has no price for that.
And I know that this is a multi-year process for you. This started years ago when you were, a clinician, and it's sort of progressed through the years as you began to really pursue the production of this brace. And I know from our conversation that obviously there were steps along the way where there were bumps and obstacles, and you just want to throw your hands up. But you were telling me that during those moments, you always found small victories that
Yes.
kept your passion alive for another day. And can you sort of explain that a little bit? And what does a small victory look like?
Just going to a physician's office or a trade show, and having physicians come to your table and really complimenting on the design and the technology, and showing so much interest in getting it into their practice. They didn't, there was no sale at that time, but when you come, you feel like that was an accomplishment, that you were able to present a product to the consumer. Little things like even being accepted to go as an entrepreneur and present your product, or making. I still remember my first business cards or my first flyers that I just made them myself, and I got them printed by Staples. And I was so excited. I was thinking like, oh my God, my business is running, So just little things, and every day at the end of the day, I feel that if you're still on the path of your passion, that day has been a successful day for you.
Now, I know you had a hiccup at Staples one time with an American Express card.
Yeah, I laugh about it because I'd gone to Staples and, I have this American Express business card and I was trying to make a copy and it declined me for $5. And I was thinking, oh my God, am I, what's going to happen now? I don't have $5 in the account. And I came home and I called my partner and we both laughed, just these things happen, at in some point of your journey, like mine. You don't know where you're going to pay the bill next or how you're going to do it, and then you do it. It happens.
During those moments when you get the decline for $5, or you think, how am I going to pay the bills next? How do you get through that moment as an entrepreneur and not just succumb to the pressure and say, I gave it my best, I got to go back to the hospital and get a real job?
Oh, I a lot of times, my partner, and he himself, he's a surgeon. His name is Dr. Scott Leckman. And a lot of times you need some encouragement or continued support from your partner who's saying, no, this is nothing, we'll get through this and it's going to be fine. And these things happen. In fact, he would just laugh and he said, this is going to be a chapter in your book, So, and then we would figure out a way, prioritizing, what bills do we need to pay right now, or what bills can we wait till next month, or do we have any, money around that we may have pocketed somewhere, and keeping our business so lean and thin. We are being able to manage it. It's not easy. And like there were times like, I got declined for $5, but we have been able to manage wisely. And then there were some companies like Bosma, and I keep bringing Bosma again. They really helped me with the resources and marketing, because when they took the product on and their contract, they were spending money to market it into the VA. So that took a lot of pressure off me. They were, paying for my travel to go with their sales force, talk to the physicians, and that really helped. And we are still in contact with them. So I just feel sometimes when you are on a path that you think is the cause and the purpose of your living, and there are some divine interventions that you may have never imagined that come your way. And I do believe some of that happened.
So, that sort of segues into a question I have. It is divine intervention to the degree that one of the strengths that older workers have in their 50s and beyond is that we've been in the workforce for decades, and we have built up a Rolodex of contacts. And it might be an electronic Rolodex these days, or a Rolodex in your brain. But those contacts are potentially avenues for either getting your product in front of somebody, getting you in front of clients, finding customers. Maybe they are a customer themselves. So to what degree did you rely on the contacts you've made coming out of university all the way through, working in Virginia?
So this is a very good question. One thing was that I always, had good support from my friends in the healthcare industry. Times have changed. When I started working in 1996, we had more autonomy on what we wanted to buy for our practices or for our departments or even for the hospitals. And as the time passed, now it's more and more difficult, even for the physicians, to use a product or get a product that they would like to have. And it has to be approved by the corporation. And the other thing was that every practice or every institution has their own vendors that they're contracted with. And those were the dilemmas that I was faced with when I was taking my products to the local hospitals and to the local communities and people that I even knew, that the contracted vendors that they've had for maybe 20 years or even more, and they are used to selling a certain brand or a certain product to those very institutions or practices. And it's a lot easier to keep selling the product that they're already selling. And it's harder to take on a new product and add that to your supply to your supply chain. And that was a really big hurdle that I face today as well. Like the clinician loves it. I know the clinician, not because they know me, because they have seen the product, they have tried it on, and they just say it's a great product, it's going to help our patients so much. But when it comes to the vendor and putting it into their own supply room, it becomes very, very difficult, because they just are too used to selling the product they're comfortable selling. So to answer your question, yes, the network helps because you have the doors that you can go to and get in there. But in the end, I feel we lack the facilitation, the streamlined processes that once a product has been developed and it's a new innovation and it has been validated and it has been vetted and everything about it has been done, all the regulations are in place, it should not be that difficult to put it in the supply chain. And that's one of the hurdles, I think, especially a small business, a woman-owned small business, and with just one or two products to start with, or three products, for me to compete against the market holders, the giants of the DMEs or the braces, all kinds of braces. It's very, very difficult because I am disrupting the existing technology of the shoulder braces. And they have been there for all my life. I've known maybe hundreds of years. We've never seen much of an upgrade on a brace, except that it's more complicated. They just keep adding buckles and straps. So it's difficult, but at the same time, I was fortunate enough that the product spoke for itself. And whenever it was gone for a review for any kind of validation, it just came out well. It just was very well received for its technology. Mm-hmm. The supply chain problem is still there. We are expanding our sales force, who have the footprint in the premier market or in the government. And this year has been challenging for everyone because of the pandemic. Most of the products that are being sold in the healthcare industry are PPEs, and the manufacturers are also developing PPEs. But I think now we are at a point where we have a contract with Premier. We have the Premier market. We have a contract with Bosma in the VA, and now we are sort of expanding the sales force to the point that we will be able to do well starting in the next few months.
And let me wrap up by asking a question I think is sort of on people's minds, but I imagine it's on their minds in the background, which is, I have an idea. I want to be an entrepreneur. I can be the next Kay. I don't know how to get past that first step, mentally getting past that first step, because the process seems so long, so big, so overwhelming. What advice can you, Kay, give me, a wannabe entrepreneur, to get past that first step and get on this path?
That's a very good question. Don't do what I did. I think if I go back and if I have to start all over again, I would first, when I have the concept in my mind, I would get the prototype made before I apply for the patent, and then also get that prototype tested and evaluated before we go into production. And I did it all on my own. And I think my advice would be, if you can, get help, you know, start with your network if somebody else is interested in your concept. And then use your local resources and channels, because the government is really helping to promote manufacturing or innovation in the USA, and I'm sure around the world. But I think the first thing is you need to have some sort of resources. You just kind of get your resources into order, like who am I going to talk, who are the people who can help me, as well as your financial resources. How are you going to finance yourself or finance this concept to make it into a tangible product? And I would say do a market analysis before you even get into that, before you even make the prototype. Like, you know, you see a problem. I mean, just making a product is not good enough. If you're solving something, if it's making sense to the end user, that's something that's your passion. And then, you know, what is the market looking like? What you think, you know, if it's a product like that doesn't have a very large market, but you're still interested in it, then you have to strategize your business so that you don't spend so much money that the product, you don't have a big market, but you've spent all your savings. So market research, I think, is extremely important. Getting as many resources as you can get from the government, from your state governments, from your federal government. Sometimes you have grants for innovation, and they will help you even develop the product. And so all those things, I think, is very, I did not know most of it. So I started to learn about them as I grew. Oh, I wish I would have done that. Or, you know, especially the SBIR and STTR, all these government organizations that help new innovations and technology, and they help even fund them. And they are, you know, certain kind of platforms that you could have access to. So those are really, really helpful, and they are helpful beyond your imagination, because they can really guide you and give you the resources to really do what you really want to do.
Okay, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for everything.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
Thanks, Kate. Bye.
Bye-bye.